Welcome to the Create Today podcast. This show is all about how to create the life that you want one day at a time. And I'm your host, Karen Stanley. And my guest today is the beautiful Jenny Hernandez. She is a nutritionist and a nutrition coach. She has totally helped me so much and changed my brain around health and diet and food and all of it. And we are going to show you what to eat and how to live your best life and how to feel good. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So excited. I am too.
I love you, so I can't wait for
I
this.
love you too. I just wanted to share that when I think that we all just have way weird beliefs about food. And I wonder why you think that is. Why are we all so confused about what the hell to eat to be healthy? Because everybody tells you what to eat that's different. Everyone says do keto. No, do no carbs at all. And that's keto, I guess. What are the other ones? Carnivore, only meat.
Carnivore, paleo.
Yeah.
There's really no like high carb, I guess, but I mean, there's a million, right?
Except for in China.
Well, except for China.
We're just talking about that.
Go to China if you want to eat all the carbs and feel good about yourself.
Nothing but noodles. I don't get it. And they're all weigh 90
I mean, there's
pounds.
always a new diet, right? Coming out every day.
Yes.
I think part of it is, well, one, there's so much confusing information out there because experts can't just agree on what truly matters, or it's even people just trying to sell you something, right? So if you're selling a supplement, you're going to sell them on that and whatever type of diet needs to go with that. Or I think part of it is people's upbringing. People just really don't know because the information's out there. So it starts from your childhood of watching your parents and what they're doing. And then that kind of messes you up from the beginning of being a kid growing up, right? And then you become an adult and you're still, I mean, I'll have clients come to me now, women, 40s, 50s. I mean, I work with all kinds of people, but they're like, I don't even know what to eat. Like, I'm so confused. But I think it's just there's just so much confusing information out there. And even for me, like I have to sift through everything to make sense of what really does matter, right? And I think part of it's just having a credible source that you know is that they actually know what they're talking about. And my biggest thing is if it sounds too good to be true, or if it's making you restrict a lot of things, you probably don't need to do that. Like that's just the reality of it.
Probably not going to be.
It's true.
It's not going to work long term.
Yes.
That's what you taught me.
Yes.
So, like, for instance, keto. Let's just talk about that. So many people do keto. And I feel like I'd rather poke both of my eyes out every day for the rest of my life. I just can't do it. Like, but people love it. Is it bad to do keto? Like, is it a bad diet? Or that's not the right word, but what do you say to that? I mean, you don't recommend it.
No, it's definitely no. I mean, here's the thing: the way you're gonna eat, whether it's keto, just a balanced diet, meaning balanced protein, carbs, and fats, do what you see yourself doing forever. And I think to your point, I'm with you 100%. Like I did it to test it because I'm in this field, and this was probably 10 years ago when I had my corporate job. We were like, hey, let's just do it. Like I did it for 4 weeks, literally just so I could say I did it. I hated every second of it. Like at first you're like, oh, this is great. I get to eat whole eggs and whatever the case is, right? But literally it's not sustainable because we want variety too, right? So that's also a big thing. But I mean, part of it is big because, again, it's a trendy diet. And I think why people want it is because it's a quick fix. People think like, oh, it's a quick fix, or somebody goes on it to lose weight. Like most people are doing it to lose weight. Let's be real. They're not doing it for health as far as that goes. So they go on it because they're like, oh, well, my friend, this is where it starts, where I see it. Well, my friend did keto. They lost 20 pounds in a couple months. So then they think it's going to work for them. But they don't think about the diet after the diet or long term, right? And most people, I can tell you right now, I never recommend keto to any of my clients. I can hands down tell you that. But if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I want to do keto or I'm doing keto, I'm like, okay, we'll talk through it. And if they want to stick with it, I can absolutely coach you on it. But I can tell you hands down, I have never, ever had somebody stick with it. Like if they come to me, want to do it, cool. They've never stuck with it because they get burned out because of the variety. Right? You have very little variety doing it. Does it work? Yeah. What's your goal? You want to lose weight? You just got to create a deficit. For some people, that's easier to say, cut out all my carbs because that's easy for them initially. But guess what? At some point, they come to your house for dinner or they go out to dinner. Now, what do? They can't just, typically, you can't just do high fat. And so then they're like, oh, now I'm off the wagon, right? Or whatever the case is. It's the whole mindset. Yes. So it works. Yes. Is it healthy long term? I think that's debatable, but I would say for most people, no, because most people also aren't doing it correctly, where they're just eating a ton of saturated fats, which you don't want. But that's what makes it easier for people, right? I'm going to eat bacon. I'm going to eat all the fats that I like, but that's not necessarily what you should be doing if you're going to do keto the healthy way. So am I a fan of it? You already know that. Heck no.
I know. That's why I wanted to talk about it first.
I love how you threw that one out there first.
I know. I'm like, I just don't get it. I understand it but it makes sense. You lose weight fairly quickly, and then you haven't had a single person stay on it.
Never. And I had
too hard.
I had one client that was doing it more from a food allergy, food sensitivity standpoint, and she wasn't necessarily full on keto, but it was definitely lower carbohydrates. We didn't always have her in ketosis, but it worked for her from a food sensitivity standpoint, and it made her feel better.
There are some reasons.
But even for her, she did it for probably 2 years, and she's a longtime client of mine. At some point, she was like, I just need more variety. Plus, she trains hard. She's doing a lot of strength training. And so we had to, part of it was a mindset too, because here's my issue with it is once you go there, now all of a sudden you're fearing carbs. And you think, well, I lost weight cutting out carbs. So I'm afraid if I start eating carbs, I'm going to gain all my weight back, right? So then now it's a whole vicious cycle. And literally you have to coach people out of that. Carbs really aren't bad for you. But if you cut out a food group long enough, you are probably going to have some reactions when you start adding it back in. Maybe some bloating, maybe things like that, depending on what you're eating, because you've cut out a food group. So then it is like, oh, wait, well, now I can't eat carbs because they maybe feel bloated. But it's like, no, you can. It's just this cycle of getting that back into your diet. Cycle. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that because I literally did that. I had this fear of carbs. You can't have carbs. Carbs are bad. Carbs make you fat. And it never works out. Then I just end up eating them and I feel bad.
Yes.
And so
true.
Oh my gosh. And so tell us, how do you get out of that? If whoever's listening has some belief around a certain thing or a certain diet or something's bad, something's good. I'm afraid to eat that thing, whether it's a lot of it's carbs. A lot of people.
100%.
I read The Grain Brain like 20 years ago. I thought all grains were terrible for you forever. And so how do you get out of that? How do you kind of unravel that belief that it's bad and scary and then work your way to what's healthier? I know everybody's different, but
100%. I would say first is you got to hire a coach. I mean, truly, like 100%. You can't go at that on your own, especially if you're in that mindset of, I can't have carbohydrates. They're bad for me. They're going to make me fat. To your point, like, unfortunately, it's the whole diet culture, right? If I eat carbohydrates, it's going to make me fat. Well, and if you come from a high fat diet, low carbs, when you add carbs back in, you're going to gain maybe a couple pounds just from the carbohydrates, from the glycogen. That's not fat gain, but automatically now they're like, oh my God, the scale's increasing.
It's terrible.
Right?
I hate it. Yeah.
Yes. So one, I definitely hire a coach who has experience of working with you with your food relationship, because that really is what it comes down to. And then part of it sounds silly, but really trusting the process, experimenting with it, and just slowly add them back in until you realize like, oh, most people are like, I actually feel better because carbohydrates are going to give you energy, right? And it doesn't mean, I feel like, let's clarify something. When people say carbs are the enemy or the devil or whatever, it's usually hyperpalatable food. So it's really not even carbohydrates. It's typically pastries, cookies, like things like that you can eat a lot of and not ever feel satiated. That's a carb and a fat. That's actually not a carbohydrate. But if you talk to people and they're like, oh, I can't have carbs or I'm addicted to carbs. Well, guess what else are carbs? Vegetables, fruit, other whole foods, brown rice, like all of that. Well, that's good for you. It has a lot of nutrients. But for whatever reason, we automatically think carbs is junk food. And that's actually not the case. It's actually carbs and fats.
Yes.
So to answer your question, to get out of it, I mean, honestly, I don't know that you could do it on your own. I would say hire a coach who can coach you through that, because it is a hard battle. I've coached tons of people, and really what it takes is them truly trusting you, trusting that, trying it, experimenting, and then realizing like, wow, I actually can achieve if it's like a body composition goal, I can actually achieve that while still eating carbohydrates. And they really have to see for themselves. I mean, truly, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I can't just sit there and tell you if you're like, oh no, I can't have carbs. And I'm like, no, you can eat them. You doing it on your own, you're probably not going to overcome that, just being realistic.
Well, because you don't have the good expectations.
Yeah.
Like you said, we wouldn't know that, oh, you're going to have slightly whatever. You might gain the 2 pounds. You might have, you got to, then you will help us work through all that stuff.
Yes.
But that's a really good point about carbs, because I think of carbs as bread and cookies and brownies, and who doesn't love brownie? But has so much fat in it. Yeah. It's not really just the carbs. It's not so much fat.
Yes.
So you have to take account for the whole thing.
100%.
Oh my gosh, it's so interesting. I also wanted to ask you about body fat, because something you told me, I was blown away about how, could you tell us when you were competing and how your body fat got so low? Could you tell us that story? Like what happened when you were, when that period of your life was, and it got too low? I'd never known this before.
So part of so I did a bodybuilding show, my one and only, 2014. That's just like a whole nother thing. But basically for 12 weeks, it was about 12 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. This was back in the day before macros were really popular, before the education was out there. And even me, I knew, because I have the education, I have a bachelor's degree, but still you hire a coach, you're like, well, I'm going to trust you. Plus that's not my area. Like bodybuilding and stuff was new to me.
Yeah. But that's specifically to get ready for this specific physique.
Yes. To get on stage, you have to be super lean. And let's be real, it's not healthy for anybody. I don't care what anybody says. Now there's healthier ways to do it now, but you are getting down to a super low body fat percentage. And a lot of it's the mental aspect part is the hardest part of it, to be honest with you. Because when you're focused on that big of a goal, like you'll do anything, which is really where I was at. I was like, all right, I'll do it. But I think what you're referring to is I ended up with hypothyroidism. Is that kind of what you're referring to? Is that?
Yes. I just couldn't remember what happened, but it was because of the body fat was low, right?
Well, it was a couple things. Okay. I dieted for, again, 12 to 16 weeks. I can't remember now. But I was also doing cardio, tons of cardio. So the issue was super low calories. I was probably, I'm thinking back, I feel like that was a lifetime ago. 1,000 calories, 1,000 to maybe 1,200 calories for 12 weeks. That's the first issue, is you have a super low calorie for an extended amount of time. But then on top of that, I basically was running my body into the ground because I was doing cardio. At least I was supposed to do it 7 days a week. That was my coach's orders, but I did know better than that. And I was like, hell no, I'm not doing 7 days a week. So I did 6 days a week. Okay. I was still whatever, but I was doing at least an hour a day. So it's the combination of super low calorie and you're focused. There's no cheating. You're not having licks and bites. You're not doing any of that. You're focused. So it's that on top of the extra cardio, the excessive cardio, I should say, which nowadays there's coaches that know better. You don't have to do that. So you can do it in a healthier way now. But at the end of the day, when you diet that hard for that long, everything slows down. Your thyroid hormones are going to slow down. Your testosterone, literally everything is going to slow down to preserve energy. So basically what happened to me is I did that for so long. I didn't have the knowledge about thyroid and stuff that I have now. And so obviously I felt like crap. After that, got on stage, looked amazing. And I'm saying air quotes because definitely don't like the way I looked now. I'm older, smarter. I'm like, that was not a good look for me personally.
Really hard. You did look amazing.
Thank you. Not the look I'm going for now.
No, I know.
But
for the competition.
For the competition, it worked. But then what happened was I didn't have the knowledge. I had an endocrinologist at the time who was, obviously my blood work was terrible after that, as anybody's will be. Had I known what I know now, I probably wouldn't have gone on thyroid medication. I would have given my body time to come back on the cardio, eat more carbohydrates, and help and see if my thyroid came out of it. But back then I didn't have that knowledge. And so as soon as obviously we saw my blood work, they put me on thyroid medication. Well, my thyroid was suppressed. Of course it's going to be, right? So since then, I have a great doctor now, and we've played with my thyroid medication. It's actually lower than it's ever been, but I am still on it. But hindsight, I probably could have come out of that without getting on medication had I known what I know now. But either way, I'm grateful for it because I learned a ton. And I obviously, when something happens to you, you dive in deep and you learn everything you can. So I look at it as, blessing and a curse, I guess, in that way. But I learned a ton about thyroid that now I understand it more. I stay within my scope, but at least I understand it. And working with clients, I mean, I have a thing. I will never diet clients that low ever, regardless. And obviously the cardio now there's just so much more great information on that. But yeah, that's really what happened to me. And I was already coaching at that point. Actually, I had my corporate job, but I didn't have my own business. But it taught me a lot. So long story short, it happened. It is what it is, but definitely don't recommend doing, and that's what people do, right? For me, I was guided by a coach, but what people do on their own is they're like, oh, I want to lose weight. And mine wasn't about weight loss. It was about getting on stage. Yeah. But let's talk about the general population. I'm going to lose weight. What's the first thing they do? They go start running because most people aren't comfortable in the gym. They aren't comfortable strength training. And they just start restricting their calories because then they see the scale coming down. Well, you can only sustain that for so long. So I kind of jumped to something here because I think that's more applicable to general population and what they think they should do. Yeah. But then they don't think of the long term, which is, my coaching is 100% let's hit your short term goals, but we're going to focus on the long term health aspect. Yeah.
And I only wanted you to share that because my belief is that I wanted to get a super low body fat. I'm horrified when I see it's 24 and I think I'm fat.
Yes.
And I think that's too much fat. But you're the one who taught me is like, oh, absolutely no, you don't want to go, or, whatever it
Depends on the
was.
person.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So everything depends on the person. That's also why I loved working with you, because everything is individual to you and what you are trying to accomplish. Not everybody's going on stage. We don't need that.
100%.
But you also taught me how it's the long term. You got to trust the process instead of looking at the scale and being devastated when it's not moved. It hasn't moved in 10 days.
100%.
It's like, and I would be like so upset. And you're like,
I love this.
so you're like, just relax. But you helped me work through that. And that's so important to change just the relationship with the scale. That's the next thing I want to talk about. How do you change that relationship, that one fucking number, when you stand on that scale? And I think a lot of women are like me. Are a lot of your clients like,
100%.
like me?
100%. But I have a question for you.
Okay.
With the scale.
Oh, yeah.
Are you better with that
I'm
now? Like, do you have your head
so
wrapped
much
around
better.
it? It's
Yes.
not like set the tone for the day.
Absolutely not.
Do you ever weigh yourself?
Still weigh myself every day.
Okay.
And it never bothers me.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting and just a metric that I like to keep track of. Mm-hmm. And
love it.
And then you also taught me that you're about the cycle. And it's like, oh my gosh, yep, my cycle's going to start.
Tracking your cycle.
There you go. Boom. It's 2 pounds, 1 pound, maybe 3. And then by the time it starts, it might be 4. And then,
and now you know,
gone.
right?
Now I know.
You know what to expect.
I don't need to adjust my diet. I don't need to adjust anything or do anything different or do an extra half hour on the treadmill. It's just so great that I feel that way now. And it took years.
100%.
I mean, I worked with you, I think, for three or 4 years.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how long.
Yeah.
So I love that you wanted to clarify that, because it just takes time. We're also brainwashed to think that everything should be instant.
Yes.
And that's all marketing.
Oh, 100% marketing. I think also, to your point, the body fat and the scale number, for whatever reason, and let's just use females. Like men are not excluded from this, first of all. I think women kind of take the brunt of it because more of us are focusing on this type of thing, right? But I've definitely had men with body dysmorphia and issues with the scale and things like that, just like women. But let's focus on women for a second, because it is more women.
Yeah.
So to your point, I think part of it is the body fat percentage on that for a second. Like you said, 24%, that's a healthy body fat percentage. And what a lot of us have in mind is like, well, I want to get to whatever. I feel like 14 to 16% is like a common number that people have in their mind. But the biggest issue is most of us can't sustain that unless you're just genetically gifted or you have a crap ton of muscle. Makes it easier. However, most females, 16%, like that's pretty lean for a lot of females. And there's usually a sacrifice that comes to that. So that's why I want to say, like, yes, it is not good. And I mean, the number of females that I even have, 23, 24%, are like, oh my God, I can't believe. And I'm like, but there's nothing wrong with that. Do you feel good? Do you have good energy? Is your cycle regular? Like, there's all those things that go with it, right? Mm-hmm. And then to your point, the scale, okay, now there's like a certain number. Like, everybody has their number they want to be at. Mm-hmm. And I always ask why. Like, why do you want to be that number? And typically it's, I was that in my 20s or whatever. They have a reason behind it. Sometimes it's a valid reason, but for the most part, let's focus on how you feel. And it's really about how you look that matters, right? So coming back to the scale and just fixing that whole relationship, for one, like I have some clients who never weigh because they just can't get over it. And that's fine.
You told me not to.
Yes.
I didn't for a couple months.
And then we worked through it, right? Mm-hmm. Then you're like, I'm ready. And that's great, because my thing is, if you can have a healthy relationship with the scale, and what I do with clients, just your example, is cool. If you're ready for it, let's weigh daily, but let's almost make it a game in a way where it's not like, oh my God, my day's ruined because it said, a different number than I wanted it to see. Mm-hmm. Instead, it's let's understand, which is what we did with you.
Totally.
Let me understand why the scale is ticking up. Is it because I had more sodium? Is it because I didn't sleep well? Is it because my cycle's coming near? Like, there are so many things, even fiber. Like, let's say somebody's super low on fiber consistently, and all of a sudden they have a higher fiber day. Well, that can even make the weight jump. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a million things, not a million, but there's so many things that can impact the scale weight. Yeah. And really how I help people overcome that, again, if they're in a good headspace, because if somebody isn't, they can totally sabotage themselves by weighing, right? Then they're just like, they can't get over that. But most people like you, I can help overcome the scale and use it as a tool. That doesn't dictate your mood. That doesn't mean you're fat. That doesn't mean whatever. Let's overcome it and learn from it and use it as a tool. But the other side of it, why people do have bad relationships with it too, is because owning their own actions, right? Maybe they went off track. Maybe they ate out. Maybe they had some alcohol. Whatever the case is, fine. Yeah. Own it and be okay with it because you made that choice. But don't let the scale now piss you off or make you feel bad because it ticked up the next day. Of course it's going to.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't make you feel guilty.
Yeah.
You made the decision.
You had an extra cocktail and
Absolutely.
you had an extra piece of pizza.
It's to be expected.
Enjoy it and whatever.
And
you know it's gonna be up tomorrow.
Exactly. Be okay with it. Yes.
I already know before
See?
I jump on. Yeah.
Because now you know and you're like, okay, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
But it's going to come back down. I just got to get back on
was fun.
track.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I love. When people are like, wow, the scale isn't like wrecking my mindset and I actually like, I understand it. That's a huge win for just lifelong, because let's talk about maintaining weight. The scale can be a good, to your point, you kind of know where you hover now, right?
Yep.
So it actually helps keep you in check if you're not, because you don't track your food or anything now, right? Okay. So you don't, which is great, but that scale still helps you like, where am I? Not making you feel bad, but like, you know, maybe during the holidays, if you're indulging and going to Christmas parties or whatever, and you kind of see it ticking up where you know that's not my range, you're like, okay, I need to reel it in.
Yeah.
Shouldn't make you feel bad, but I can reel it in now and I can maintain my weight. So research has shown that will help people. Like that can be a good indicator to help you. It's a metric, right? If you have a good, if you have a good relationship with it, it can actually help you with weight maintenance in the long run.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody and that's fine. But again, it depends on the individual. Am I going to have you weigh every day or not?
And I think that's my biggest mind-blowing change is that nothing is for everybody. There's not one program, one diet, one plan, whatever you want to call it, for everybody. Not like every single one of your clients has a different
100%.
Everything is different, right?
100%.
And so how do you determine that per person and just in general? Because it's hard to answer because everything is different. But what are all the factors that determine, you know, what your the recommendations?
Well, I mean, first of all, with my coaching, as you know, especially my one-on-one, I do group stuff and that's still custom to the individual. It starts with a questionnaire, it starts with a conversation, and then it's me literally getting to know you and having continuous conversations of trying to figure out, and it's also the client getting comfortable. And as I tell clients, clear back when you worked with me, the more I know, the more I can help you. I mean, I've had clients who were binging for a year working with me before they finally owned it to me. And then I'm like, okay, well, I've been scratching my brain forever trying to figure out why you're not losing, right? So and again, I'm like not making like jokes of that, but it is like, it's really just getting to know the person.
So much shame.
There is so much shame. And it's like, look, I'm here to help you. I'm not judging you. It is literally, and it's the truth. If you have a coach who you feel like is judging you, or even, you know, there's some coaches that are just like hardcore. That is definitely not my style, because I want long-term health for you. And if you're making people, I mean, coaches can make you feel bad about that, right? At the end of the day, I mean, it depends on the coach's style.
Yeah.
But for me to get to know somebody, I think this is where you're going with this, is like the biofeedback and things like that. Yeah. Is that what you're...
I just want to educate our listeners, like, because there's so many factors that it's just such a great education. Like, just if we could just educate ourselves with hiring someone like you. And so just kind of like, just help us with, how do you determine what's best for you? Well, it's how, like, all of the factors, like how, like, tell me again. There's how you feel.
The things we talk about?
Yes.
Okay.
How your sleep, that affects everything.
100%.
And because you went through that thyroid thing, you totally know how to read someone's blood. I mean, I would show you my blood tests.
Yes.
We had to determine if my thyroid was off. It didn't end up being off, but
at least I know to refer you. Like, I'll look at it and be like, definitely, you know, and find somebody good too.
Yes.
Because they're all, not all.
A lot of people just prescribe medicine without doing anything else. Yes. And I'm vehemently against that. I'm not vehemently against medicine. Right. Just vehemently 100%. Not that being the only thing.
Right.
So it's not the only thing.
No, it's absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
It's usually, so to your point, it's learning somebody's lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it's the sleep, every conversation I have with a client. How's your sleep? How's your energy? How's your recovery? How's your workouts? How's your energy in the workouts? How's your daily energy? If somebody even has thyroid like me, it's like I just had a call today with a client and she was like, her doctor lowered her medication. And again, like that's between her and her doctor, but I've worked with her for years and she was like, I just feel exhausted in the afternoon. I don't think it was like a good call. And my doctor's very big on, how do you feel? Like, yes, we'll look at the blood work, but how do you feel? So I try to, if anything, I empower my clients like, hey, go to your doctor and make sure they know and push back. If you're like, I feel crappy, even if they are going off of that, you don't want to feel crappy. Like you can't function like that. So that's where like all kind of, my sister's actually funny because she's an NP and she was like, doctors hate you, because I'll give them like a list of like, ask for this blood work. Not because I'm a doctor, but because I know from my shadowing different doctors and things over the years, what you really need to know, not to like get off on a tangent, but it's like, take this. And so often doctors be like, no, we can't. And I'm like, but you need to know that, especially if something's off.
Yeah.
But either way, I digress. So lifestyle habits.
Yeah.
And then food, like obviously back to the food piece, we're talking about food quality, meal timing. Like, yes, I do macros pretty much for 90% of my clients. Because if anything, to me, that teaches you about food for you, right? It teaches you.
It's so awesome.
I mean, it teaches you what a carb, fat, protein is. It teaches you how you feel because you get more in tune with your body with the food you're eating.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
I mean, even if it's work, right? Like, how much did you learn from tracking your food about yourself?
I would recommend it to everyone because that's the only way that it's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, there's work.
And to your point about binging, I remember a couple nights we'd go out and have several cocktails, and I was like, I go, how many carbs is it? I'd be like, 1 million.
Too many.
All right, I'm just off. I got off the wagon. It was a Saturday night. I was weak. So it was just so funny. And she just like laughs through it. It's all good. Everybody does it. It's fine. But it really taught me, you can budget for stuff that you really want to eat. Like if you want to have a treat, budget it in. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean by budgeting in? So our listeners can know what I'm talking about.
So let's say, for example, tonight we're going out to dinner.
Yeah.
So look ahead. If you know, even if you're going out to dinner, if you're going to have some drinks, whatever, I always say back into your day. So if you're tracking your food, whether you have a coach or not, I recommend just get on an app. There's tons of them out there now.
Yeah.
Just track your food to learn about what you're putting in your body. But let's say you're tracking to hit numbers like I have my clients do. Back into your day, meaning, okay, I'm going out to dinner. I know it's going to be higher fat. I know it's going to be higher calorie, whatever the case is. I'm going to eat leaner and greener leading up to that meal. So now I have a budget for it. I can stay on track for my goals. I can still reach my goals. And it's not that, well, I'm going out to dinner, so forget everything. It's like, no, plan for it.
So,
and what happens with the alcohol, to your point, like people can drink, but typically what happens, as you can attest to this, you start realizing like, wow, those alcoholic drinks are actually adding up a lot. And if I budget for alcohol, now I don't get to eat as much, even if you do have high calories.
And I'm hungry.
And then you're hungry. But for some people, it's worth it. And so that's what, as I coach people, you'll determine what's worth it to you. What's worth it to you may not be worth it to me.
Right.
Guess what? I'll budget for a cookie all day long. I'm not budgeting for an alcoholic drink. It's just not important to me. It makes me feel like crap. You know what I mean? Like it just depends. But that's where it's so important to find what works for you and not go off of just a mass nutrition plan or like to your point, I don't do keto for everybody. I don't do paleo or whatever. Like first of all, I'm a big fan of just a balanced diet, as you know.
Just balancing.
But even from there, you can be more carb, more fat, but it doesn't have to be keto.
Right.
So it's really just about meeting. I think this is an important piece too, is meeting people where they're at. Yeah. You can't come to me fearing all the foods and I'm like, oh, just start eating, 150 carbs. And you're like, what? Like, you're not going to stick with me because you're going to be scared to death and you're not going to get results or whatever the case is. So it truly is, you keep saying it, like meet the individual where they're at.
Yeah.
I mean, truly.
And the more information that we share with you, the better it'll be and the better helpful. I remember about the client that was binging for a year, and I just was laughing because I could just like wanted to, like if I had an extra drink, I just didn't want to put it in there.
Right? It's so true.
I just don't want to own it. Dang it. Why am I so weak? And I just beat myself up, but I'm just like, just put it in there so that just add the carbs, it's not life or death.
No. It's the knowledge piece. So when you ask, like, how do you help people overcome like all this we're talking about? It's the education piece. And that's truly what I love. I mean, it's rewarding to me to help you get results and to see you now years later, like you're a poster child for me. Like, look at you. You can have a drink. You can enjoy your time. You have no guilt. You're not hating yourself. You're not hating the scale.
I'm planning on it. Yeah. So I know what I'm going to eat tonight.
Yes. Even though you're not tracking.
No.
But you know how to handle your
I
day.
know pretty much what carbs and fat and, is in everything. That's also too, is after a while, you basically eat mostly the same stuff. Not everything, not every day.
Yes.
But we all kind of have a typical things that we like to eat. And so you already remember, how many, proteins are in chicken. I eat chicken all the time, and I know what it is in a filet. It's like 6 ounces. I already know what it is because I've eaten it so many times.
Yeah. And you tracked it. So now you know. It's the knowledge.
So I'm like, oh yeah. So I'll have less carbs at lunch because I might want to eat that pretzel roll tonight.
Yep.
And that's totally fine. And because I haven't had any carbs today. So it doesn't matter. So I just like, I know I'm going to have a little bit of carbs. You need some carbs.
Yes.
Is pretzel bread like the best, healthiest thing in the whole world to eat? But
maybe not, but you're not eating it every day.
Yeah. I'm not eating it every day.
I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to what do you do the majority of the time?
It's the majority.
which I think that's what people need to know too.
Yeah, they do.
It's, if you're going out every weekend and binge eating and eating crappy food and drinking alcohol, fine, that's your choice.
Sure.
But own it. You're probably going to feel crappy. You're probably not going to lose weight, but be okay with it because that's your decision. We all have a choice to make. Mm-hmm. And I'm not hard on people in that sense, but at some point it's like you do have to own it. And I think that's the issue where the guilt comes in, but it's like, be okay with it. You made the decision.
Yeah.
Be okay with it or change it.
Right.
Or learn more.
Or not.
Because you're like, you didn't know when we started how to manage your day without tracking food. And I don't think people need to track forever. Although I'm also not a coach that's like, oh, we're not meant to track forever, because I have some clients who love tracking and they're probably going to track forever, but that's also their decision. That doesn't mean it's unhealthy for them. It works for them. It's a great
tool and it works for them. That's 100%. What you always say.
Yes.
And whatever works for you.
Oh, I love it.
I know, it's
yes,
so good.
It's so true.
Long term, but like long term, forever. I love that. And I wanted to ask you, I just forgot what I was going to ask. And does age matter? And why does age matter? Because I was just thinking this morning, man, I used to, if I had like a weekend where we're in Vegas and we're partying it up and we're eating at every fine dining restaurant known to man, and I could come back on Monday 5 pounds heavier and I would lose it by Friday. Mm-hmm. Is age a factor or not really?
It is a factor. I'm not going to say it's not.
Okay.
Although they say that metabolism doesn't actually, and I'm saying actually, in a healthy person, slow down until we're in our 60s.
Oh, okay.
But let's talk about really what happens with aging, why people are always like, yep, I'm getting older. It's my metabolism. It's, people talk about metabolism. They don't really know what they're talking about too.
Is that a myth?
It really is, in the sense, think of it this way. The older we get, and this will resonate with you. The older we get, the busier we get. Usually less active we get, whether it's you're busy with your business, your kids, your family. You don't have as much time for yourself. If you don't make the time, like I 100% agree, because I have tons of clients who have all the things in the world going on, but you got to prioritize you, right, at the end of the day. And a lot of times that just gets pushed by the wayside, where you just get busy with life. You're more sedentary. Maybe your diet isn't in check. You're not eating as a balanced diet. When you're younger, you might have been at a healthier weight to begin with. You haven't yo-yo dieted. Again, individual, right, plays into all of this, but especially the yo-yo dieting. That's what catches up to so many people when they do get older. They've yo-yo dieted so much that, eventually if your metabolism is going to, I'm going to say air quotes, slow down, but basically it's just adapting to what you've done your entire life. Oh, so that's really what happens, is it's going to adapt.
Wow.
And then you do have to be more disciplined to get yourself kind of back out of that, which, when people are like, well, now I'm ready, they think in 12 weeks, they're going to be back to where they wanted to be 5 years ago. Well, it doesn't work like that. You've spent all these years beating yourself up, yo-yo dieting, trying the next quick fix. I mean, when we're talking about people having a hard time losing weight, that's typically their situation. You take somebody who's been strength training. So this is what you got to look at the big picture, right? You have somebody who's maybe they've been an athlete, so they have a good amount of muscle. They already have the routine down. They already have the habits. They're still fit when they're in their 40s and 50s because they didn't spend all that time yo-yo dieting. Athlete or not, you just have somebody who grew up.
Just been consistent.
Yes, been consistent, working out, watching their food. They understand nutrition. Maybe they grew up in a household where that was a priority too. And so is it easier for them? No, it's just their lifestyle. They have the habit. They have the routines. Well, most people I'm helping, maybe that hasn't been their life. And that's not all my clients. I mean, I definitely have athletes and things like that, but you have somebody who has a struggle losing. It's the consistency and the adherence to get to where you want. Stay consistent long enough to get there.
Wow. I think that's the thing that a lot of us don't want to think about, is that what have we been consistently doing for the last 20 years before? Because I'm almost 50. Yes. So, and
that's amazing. Amazing.
Thank you.
I love it.
It's weird. I can't even believe that's true. But yeah, and I don't believe that. I don't have that belief that, menopause is hard, it's horrible, everything's terrible, everybody gains 30 pounds. But I can't even tell you how many women I have said that believe that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. I can, like dozens, probably like 50.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Women that I know that are over 50, they started the menopause, and they just completely just fell off the rails.
Yeah.
And they're depressed. It's not just the weight, your hormones and all that stuff is going on at the same time. But how much do you think is it that belief that, nope, you're only, as soon as you hit 50, it's hard, it sucks, you're going to lose your period and you're going to get fat. You're just going to be fat for the rest of your life.
Well, we know mindset's half the battle.
It is.
We know this. I mean, I don't want to be like all woo-woo about mindset, but it is a big part of it. And if you believe that, and now you're stuck in that of like, well, I'm doomed. No, to our point, it's what has your lifestyle been leading up to 50 when that happened?
Yeah.
And that's where I go back to establish these habits, do some strength training. Like, I mean, we could talk about like, what are the things you should be doing to set yourself up for success?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be as difficult as it looks out there in the marketing. I mean, it makes me crazy because marketing, if you just get online, whether it's social media or whatever, you're like, oh my God, I got to like eat certain foods and I got to work out at a certain time and I got to only eat at certain times. It's not, it doesn't have to be that difficult.
And it's no wonder why we're all overwhelmed and we just give up.
100%. And then to the consistency thing, I want to say a lot of people, this is where a coach comes in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't truly know what consistency looks like and feels like. You know how many clients I have where they're like, they think they're being consistent or they've been consistent now for 3 or 4 weeks and like, oh my God, like why are things not happening quick enough? And I'm like, you've only been consistent for 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah. That's not that long in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So that's where having the accountability for a coach is huge.
Huge.
1, to check yourself, and 2, for you to really own like, wow, I really haven't been in this long enough. I haven't been consistent enough.
So just keep going.
Yes. Because we know how hard it is to be consistent until you create those habits and really feel the effects.
Yep. And then that whole myth, you just do it for 21 days. The habits 21 days. Yeah. That is such a lie. How did that even happen? How did that even start? Who came up with that?
I think his name is BJ Fogg.
I
think he was the one that came up with the 21 day thing, and that's definitely been debunked.
100%.
Yeah, 21 days is nothing if you think about it.
Yeah, maybe 1 out of 100.
I mean, right?
In 21, but and like so. But I think just developing just doing the habits themselves is the only way to get the consistency after 6 months.
Yes,
6 months from now, it's the only way you can do it is track it every day and work with a coach. Not fix your mind. You're not fixing. You're developing a good relationship with food.
Yes. Start where you're at, not where your friend's at.
Oh,
because if your friend's already working out 4 days a week, they got their diet down. You're not going to just jump right in and start working out 4 days a week when you haven't ever worked out consistently. That's not going to happen. So like all people come to me and they're like, I'm like, okay, well, you want to start working out. How many days do you want to work out? 5 days. Okay, but you're not working out at all right now. Do you think that's realistic? I love this question to put back on people because then they're like, well, that's a good point. I mean, 5 days is a lot. I'm like, start with 2 days. Get 2 days down for the next month even. When you do that, or maybe it's 2 weeks and you're like, okay, I can add a day. Make that a habit. It comes down to habits. 100%.
Totally.
It's your habits.
Totally.
So start small, nail that because now you feel successful as opposed to you tell me like, I'm going to work out 5 days a week, even though I haven't worked out for five days a week in years or maybe never.
Right.
Well, guess what's going to happen? The first week you do 3 days. Now you feel like a failure. Now I suck. Now the narrative starts, right? Like that negative self-talk. Yes. And then that's a vicious cycle. Then the next week, I still only got 3 days. Well, guess what? Same thing. I suck. I can't do this.
That 4th day, you can't move. Yeah. Because you haven't worked out in 10 years.
Yeah. You're sore. You're wrecked.
I've been there too.
Yeah. That too. Exactly.
You literally can't even move anymore.
Yeah. And then you hate it because you're like, well, this sucks. Who wants to feel like this?
You feel like a big loser.
So it's start small with what's truly, and that's not me giving people an out. It's let's make it attainable and let's make you successful first.
Yes.
I'm gonna have a client right now. We tell her, go ride your bike for 10 minutes. If you do more, great. If you hate it, cool. You did 10 minutes. And guess what? She goes for 30 minutes. She dreads going, but as soon as she gets on her bike, she loves it. And she goes for 30 minutes. I mean, just an example.
Love it.
Meet people where they're at. Meet and be realistic with yourself. Like, what can I truly do?
Small. Baby steps. What can you actually commit to? And then just keep going. Just keep doing it.
Yes.
I love that.
Just repeat it. And then when you feel like, hey, I can do more, do more. And also, I don't recommend like, you're going to start working out. You're going to start eating healthy. You're going to start tracking your food. Again, if you've never been doing any of this, let's start with one thing. So you can get that down, create the habit, and then let's move to the next. Then we'll add in. Because again, long term, where do you want to be in 5 years from now? Not 6 weeks from now.
Right.
That's the other key.
It's a lot. Do a lot of your clients have the same belief that I do? I want to look like Cindy Crawford in 6 weeks.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
What do I need to do?
100%. I think that's the biggest issue, right? Is people have this whole thing of like, well, I know I can get there, and all the crappy marketing makes you think that. They show these 12-week transformations, which I do group challenges, but it's not about let's see how quick you can get there. It's let's establish these habits to get you there.
We're helping each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you did group challenges. I think
I never did.
Oh, you didn't? You started one-on-one? Okay.
Yeah, it's just
I was
one-on-one.
thinking you started. Okay. Well, the group challenges are great because you have a community, you have that aspect. I don't even call them challenges anymore, just like a group coaching aspect. People like that.
Of course.
You have support.
And you've got the accountability partners, your best friends doing it with you, you know, and then you can help each other, you know, be successful. So I think a lot of it, that's so cool. I love that. And so what do you usually start with? If someone's the very first time you're meeting them and you said, we don't start 10 habits all at the same time, what's the first thing? Where do you start?
Well, if somebody's coming to me, they're going to start tracking their food. We're going to start with tracking their food. So the first thing they do is track for 7 days. Don't change your eating. Don't eat how you think I want to see you eat. Track everything you eat as normal. And I say normal as you can because obviously you want to make a change. You're already like, oh, I got to start cleaning it up. It's like, do the best you can, because for me, seeing how you're currently eating, not even how you're eating, but how much you're eating is key. Yeah. You got to start there, because I'm not going to just take your height, your weight, and just plug in some stats and say, here's your macros. I'm going to look at what are you currently doing? What's your goal? What's your activity level? And then we're going to set your macronutrients, your calorie goal based on that. So that's really the first stop, because obviously I do nutrition coaching. I don't write a lot of exercise programming. I love doing it myself, but it's not my passion. And so I really just stick with the nutrition, but we still talk about exercise, and I set them up for success in that regard, or recommend programs to them, things like that. But we're starting with tracking your food, hands down.
And you don't even look at the food itself. You're only looking at the macronutrients.
Initially.
And okay.
Yeah.
So why is that so important to document, like, the number of grams of fat, and then the number of grams of carbs, and then the number of grams of protein? Is there another thing? No.
That's it.
Okay.
Protein, carbs, and fats. Well, we look at fiber. We look at things like that.
I knew there was a thing.
Yeah, we do look at fiber. But the fiber thing for me is I can tell how good, or I want to say bad, how good or crappy basically somebody's diet is based on their fiber. If your fiber is in, 9, 10 on a daily basis, you're not really eating that many whole foods. So I look at fiber for that reason, because then I know automatically we got to talk about food quality also. But the reason why, and I like this example, let's say
instead of just eat 1,200 calories the rest of your life.
Here's why. Let's paint the picture. 2,000 calories is kind of a good example, right? If you're eating 2,000 calories and let's just say 10% is protein and the rest is coming from carbs and fats, well, protein's going to help. There's a ton of things protein's going to help with, but most people coming to me, it's about aesthetics. They want to look better. Okay. So protein's going to help you build muscle. It's also going to keep you more satiated. So now you're not eating as many carbs and fats. It's going to help you control your diet a little bit more. And really having enough protein and strength training, I will say, is what's going to help shape your body as well. So let's say you have 2,000 calories with a 10% protein, the rest of it's carbs and fats, or you have somebody eating a balanced diet, let's say 30% protein, the rest carbs and fats. You can see there's already a difference in 2,000 calories. Where those 2,000 calories are coming from is what's going to make a difference in, again, satiety is huge, because if most people eat more carbs and fats, not enough protein. You remember that your protein was lower, because 95% of people's protein is lower. It's easier to overeat those foods. If you actually start adding in protein, when we start adding in protein, you actually feel more satiated. You aren't craving those foods as much. That's really what I would say is the biggest reason. Now, there's obviously deeper science and stuff, but if you just want to say, like, make this simple surface level, you got to have some protein in your diet so you aren't just gorging yourself on carbs and fats. You're going to eat less. Think of it this way. You could eat, I'm going to exaggerate, you could eat 5 donuts pretty easily and not really be full. Are you going to eat 5 chicken breasts? Probably not.
You can't even.
You're going to feel disgusting. Yeah. You're going to be stuffed.
You wouldn't be able to.
You're not going to be able to. So right there explains the difference of, again, a donut's carbs and fats. It's not a carb and fat.
So much fat.
Chicken is protein.
Right.
So it's the satiation and you just being more satiated, where you're not going to just stuff yourself, and that's going to help you control your appetite. I mean, that's a huge piece of it.
Right.
But most people just don't, even all people say, like, oh, I know I eat tons of protein. Well, you're eating like 50 grams a day and you need like 130. That's not that much.
I think people generally way underestimate how much protein they need, right?
Oh, yeah.
Have you found that?
Oh, absolutely. I would say in the years I've been doing this, I've maybe had, and I've coached a lot of people, maybe 10 people ever who actually came to me eating enough protein. I mean, truly.
Wow.
It really is true. So like protein, everybody's like, oh, protein's king. Like protein's great. You need a balance of all of them. I'm not like protein's only macronutrient, but protein is usually where I start with people. So back to the whole, like, where do we start? You track. I look at your quantity first. We get you balanced out. Now the first week is you try to hit the numbers. I don't do meal plans because a meal plan is not sustainable. And my whole thing is like, yes, I could set you up for success by giving you that meal plan, but guess what? You're not going to stick to it and you're not going to learn anything from it, because now I'm just giving you the steps to do. I want you to learn about food so you can sustain that and make your own choices, and like how to swap out your carbs, fats, proteins now, right? Because I didn't just give you a meal plan and say follow this. You wouldn't have stuck with it.
I wouldn't have.
And it would have wasted my time.
Because I was so cool. Because I was getting it. Once I got it down, I was like, I remember I used to get the those Tate's crispy chocolate chip cookies.
Oh yeah.
And I just cause I knew that was 20 carbs, and it didn't have any fat because they were the crispy little time, a little bit of fat.
Yeah, maybe like 6.
So I was like, yes, that's my 20 carbs. I'm like, I like still have 90 to go, and I was like super excited about my little treat.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel deprived. I think that's the biggest thing.
100%.
Oh my gosh.
Deprivation. But that's why diets don't work.
Term.
Yes. Because you can only restrict so long before it's just not going to work, and you are going to go overboard because you feel restricted. That's why, and like normal diets, the keto, like all that, you feel deprived. You want to enjoy a cookie every once in a while, or whatever your vice is. Not everybody likes cookies,
Whatever.
but cookies are my thing. So I want to have a cookie.
Or pizza.
Do I eat them every day? No.
No.
If I want a cookie, I'm going to eat it, and I'm not going to think twice about it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because you already know how. But I think the reason why I hired her in the first place is because my yoga instructor was...
Oh, that's how you.
Oh my gosh, she has a killer body. She works really hard. I know she does, and she had a CrossFit gym, and she owned a yoga studio. She still does, and she still has a killer body. But she came over to my house, and she was eating chocolate chip cookies, and I was like, "What the hell? How are you?" Like literally, I like literally didn't understand how someone who looked like her could eat cookies.
Yeah,
and she was like, "Oh, once you like eat the right stuff, your body knows what to do with it." And what it really turned out to, she had dialed it down with you so well that she could eat whatever she wanted on Friday night.
Yeah.
And that's what she did.
Yeah.
They'd go to the movies and eat whatever they wanted, and then just get right back on. It was only Friday nights, and it was only, that was her fun.
Because it worked for her.
Because it worked.
Yeah.
She looks amazing. Still does.
Absolutely.
And so I couldn't believe it. So that's when she said, I've been working with Jenny. I was like, well, give me her number right now. My mind was blown. I thought that you had, in order to be thin and beautiful, that you had to restrict all of your favorite stuff, or you just had to restrict.
Yeah.
And I just love that it's not true.
It's so not true.
That's not true.
It's that, and people think 1,500 calories like this magic. Either 1,200 or 1,500, where people come to me eating that much. And I'm like, but at the end of the day, they're really not just eating that much, because the weekends are going overboard. And that's where people are like, I can't lose weight, and I'm eating 1,500 calories. I'm like, you're probably not 200 pounds and eating 1,500 calories a day. You need to be real with yourself and be honest and look at what you're eating on a weekly basis, because that's what it comes down to. So to your point, how she could have a Friday night, kind of enjoy herself, get back to it. It comes down to your weekly average, calorically speaking. So it's not day-to-day matters, but to your point, like, I'll set people up for success. One of my questions on my questionnaire is, what's your non-negotiable? Some people and that was hers, was, I want a date night. I want to have a date night with my husband or wife or whatever and be able to enjoy a meal out. I'm like, okay, let's make that work for you.
Great.
Doesn't mean you go YOLO and eat your face off. Obviously, we got to have some discipline, and we got to have some discipline.
Yeah.
But we basically bring calories down in the week, and then they have more flexibility on the weekend. The weekly average is where I think a lot of people miss it, is they're like, well, I'm going to restrict all week. Fine. Sometimes that works. But if you're restricting foods on top of that, then the weekend comes and all you want to do is eat those foods. That's not going to be sustancible either. You're going to gain weight doing that. Yes.
So that's why you want to know what we're eating first. And so that we do want to lose weight and lose fat. And you have a whole program, right? Is it out yet?
I just actually announced it yesterday.
That's so exciting.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a lot of work.
Oh yeah. I want to hear all about that. But I have one specific question.
Okay.
So you're saying, people say, oh, you have to have a deficit. I think in a lot of people's brains, that means 1,500 calories.
Yes.
For some reason, you're never going to be full on 1,500 calories anyway. No. I mean, yeah, you can. I've done it.
You can if you eat. Actually, you can if you
you
manage your food choices right.
Oh, you can 100%. Be full with 1,500?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's not sustainable for a lot of people. And you don't want to, most people, I should say, don't want to be there forever. But it also, again, it depends.
You don't need to.
No, like I have some clients that diet to 1,800 calories because they haven't dieted their life away. And that's the deepest deficit they get. I do have some people you got to get down to 1,500 or maybe a little bit lower.
Just for a little bit?
Yeah, to get there. But we're not going to stay there.
Okay.
Because you're not going to sustain that. And then you are going to gain the weight back.
Yeah.
So an important piece of this, I don't want to make sure we don't leave out, because I know we're running out of time, is the diet after the diet. So the biggest piece with fat loss is you're going to diet, you're going to create a deficit, you're going to reach your goal. You may or may not reach your first fat loss phase. It may take you years to get to where you want. Dieting, and then reverse dieting basically just means increasing your calories slowly to get so your metabolism will adapt to a higher intake. So that's what you want to do. Right. You want to think about, what's my plan after I get done dieting? Because if you just get to your goal, weight or body comp or whatever, and then you go about your life, you're probably going to go back to some of your old habits, and you're not going to do it diligently, where now the weight's going to come back on. So that's where I tell people when they come to me for fat loss, I'm like, just stay with me, because most people aren't familiar with that. Stay with me till we get to your goal, and we can at least get calories back to a place where you feel like you can live there. That's how you're going to maintain it. So for you, like, even though you're not tracking, you're obviously at an intake where you feel good, you can maintain it, you can live there without feeling deprived, and it works for you.
It works great. And I'm gonna consult with a new doctor, and so she wanted me to fill out a diary, and I was like, oh, I haven't done this in a long time. Putting up the old MyFitnessPal and doing it again. I was thinking I might actually do it for the next month or two or whatever. We want to get back into what we used to do. John hasn't been feeling good, so we haven't been doing our normal routines. We haven't gone our normal gym. And which is an excuse for me. I mean, he's my workout partner. It doesn't mean I couldn't go. Right. It just means I haven't been. And I would like to. I'm owning it. I have not gone without my husband. When he doesn't feel good, then I'm like, I don't have to go now. And I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't feel as good. I don't sleep as well, blah, blah, blah. So, I can't even remember what we're talking about. I totally lost my train of thought.
Sustaining, like where you're at, what it takes.
Oh, I was thinking about doing it again.
Yeah,
just
tracking your food.
Maybe 3 months or 2 months or whatever, because it really is a great tool. Really helped me, stay on track. So, anyway, now I want to hear all about the fat loss program. You told me about it a couple months ago, and you're like, I can't wait to share it all with you. Let's hear it.
Okay. So and I want to be clear too. I work with people more than on just fat loss.
Of course.
But a lot of people come to me wanting fat loss because they want to feel better or whatever the case is. But so what I did was I just released, it's actually not available to purchase, but you can get on my wait list to get the first notification when it comes out. A fat loss course. And the reason why I built it is because I only have so much. I've had a wait list literally since 2020, and I only have so much capacity. I can only coach so many people. And so I'm like, I need a DIY option for people. So if you come to me, and whether you want to do it on your own, not everybody needs accountability, or if you just want the education, because it's not setting your macros in it, but it's literally, you could do it. It's almost a 12-week course if you were to do it like week by week, but it's self-paced. So you purchase from me right now. It's only going to be $149 initially. So I'm going to give you a killer deal. Yeah. You have access to it forever. And I literally teach you in the course. It's me teaching you everything I teach clients with one-on-one coaching. And I go through everything from nutrition, supplements, even just tracking your food. I start off explaining for you how to do that if you want to go that route, because obviously I'm a firm believer in it. It works. We talk about training. I touch a little bit on menopause and women in there with training, because there's a huge clientele for that and a lot of misunderstanding, I think, around that. Like women always want to do circuit training and things like that. And it's like, just go lift some freaking heavy weights. That's going to get you the body you want, like truly. Okay. So anyway, the course is there's tons of information. I actually looked at it and went, do I need to cut some of this out? But I'm like, I'm going to give it all. So it's only $149. Wow, I have a link that you can get on the wait list to know. It's going to be available forever, obviously. But once you buy it, you have access to it forever. And then if you want macros, if you're like, hey, I do want to track, I want to have my own custom macros, then that's a little bit of additional cost, but then I can set you up for that. We can actually do a consult that's specific to you. But this just gives me an option to help. I want to help more people, and I only have so many hours in the day. I know. And so that's why I built that course specifically. I have more that's going to be coming soon too, but that was so awesome. A labor of love. But it's amazing. I'm super proud of it. And if you just want to learn, or if you're somebody who's gained, lost all of your life, this is going to help you understand why that's happened to you and how you can get out of that cycle. Wow. So, and in a simple way, like it's not scientific. Yeah. It's literally how I coach people. It's very generalized for just whoever could literally learn from it. And then again, you can always refer back to it. Oh, that's awesome. So I'm excited about it. It's a big deal. Oh, congratulations. Thank you. So cool. Yeah, you can only work with so many people. Yes. Only so many hours in one day. Darn it. Yes. Yeah. You're amazing. Thank you. Before we wrap up, let's just touch on exercise really quickly, because I didn't ask you about that. You just said, just throw around some weights. Yes. So tell us, really, if we really wanted to, tone up, lose fat, set ourselves up for success for menopause, like women my age, what's the best thing to do? Strength training and walking. Just weights. Like literally, I recommend walk 30 minutes a day. And if you can't do 30 minutes at once, walking isn't going to shape your body. Let's be real. But most women I see are high stress. They're stressed out. So walking is going to help increase your energy expenditure. Okay. One, it's going to help you just be less stressed. I don't know anybody that walks that doesn't feel less stressed. And 30 minutes is general, but most people, you're going to get 30 minutes. If you're not doing anything, that's going to help, right? Totally. But the biggest thing where I think everybody misses is strength training. And I'm fine. Like there's classes where you can go do circuit training and that's fine. Like one, you got to do what you love.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I feel like women especially are so afraid of lifting heavy weights because it's going to make them bulky. Well, you and I both know. First of all, I'm always like, I wish I could get bulky from lifting weights. I've been trying forever to build muscle and it's taken me years to get to where I want to be. But it's literally strength training. If you're not familiar with strength training, I do recommend hire a trainer. They can be expensive, but just hire somebody for a month just to get familiar with the gym, get familiar with what you need to do so you have proper form and don't get hurt. And it's also going to give you the confidence to go at it on your own, like if you end up, moving away from your trainer. So I'm definitely a fan of that. So you set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
And it's not like you have to go to the gym 6 days a week. Go 2 or 3 days. I mean, truly, if you've never strength trained, start out 2 days a week if that's all you can do. Yeah. You're going to get benefit from that and then increase from there based on what your life allows you to do. But don't feel like you have to go every day. And then also the other question I get on this is, well, how long do I need to work out? That depends on what you do in the time you're there, right? You can go there for an hour, chit chat, or just kind of screw around for I mean, I know it sounds silly, but it's true. People they want to know how long. And it's like, get a program, follow a program, pay for a progressive overload program. And show up and put the work in and also challenge yourself. Because the biggest issue that I see with people, and I was even one of them, I thought I was pushing myself, like I'm good at pushing myself. What really made a difference for me was actually tracking my workouts in an app and tracking so then I could literally see, last week I did 50 pounds and I'll rate the RPE. I recently posted about RPE and tracking that. So,
I didn't see that.
Okay. So it's called rate of perceived exertion.
Okay.
I'm going to just make this really short. Basically that lets you know like how much effort did I really have to put into that? Because if I did 50 pounds and I stopped, but I could have done 5 more reps, I probably could have gone heavier. So part of it again is being honest with yourself. How hard was that for me? And am I truly pushing hard enough? The people you go to the gym, you see them every day for years and their body never changes. They're probably not lifting heavy enough weight or pushing themselves. And that's fine. Like some people, it's not about building muscle and they just want to be there to be healthy. That's fine. They're still going to get health benefits from it. But if you're truly trying to change your physique, you got to lift heavy enough to challenge your body to grow muscle, to actually change your body. So menopausal women, get in there and start strength training. Yeah. Don't be going doing hours of cardio.
Got it.
Strength train.
Okay. And how do you determine that? Is it by the number 12, how do you determine that what you just said?
The RPE? Yeah. I mean, that's going to depend. Like if you're somebody that's a beginner, I would say shoot for, it ranges from 1 to 10. If you just Google it, it will show you like what RPE means and the scale. Okay. But if you're like a 9 or a 10, that 10 means you're a failure. Like you couldn't do more reps. Failure. You don't need to be failing on every set. That's not what I'm recommending. Okay. But if you're at a 5 and you could be at an 8, 8.5, where you're like at 8 and 8.5, you're like, I could have probably done like maybe a couple more reps. You want to at least be there so you're challenging yourself. And my other gauges that I tell my clients, are you doing the same weight you were doing 2 months ago, 3 months ago? Because if you are, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. And then when people start realizing that, they're like, oh yeah, I really haven't, I've been at the same weight. Well, you're not going to change your physique that much by just never increasing your weight. You got to challenge yourself. Okay. So huge, just strength train, eat enough protein, eat whole foods. Don't just eat it. And you don't have to eat just whole foods. Have a damn cookie. Yep. But also make sure you're getting some whole foods and watch your fiber just to make sure you're eating enough good foods, because that's also going to keep you satiated so you're not just eating a bunch of crap. Yeah, and even just that one baseline of food is not punishment. Right, 100%. Should not make you feel guilty. You're fueling your body, but do you actually feel full for more than 3 hours or 2 hours? I never really put that together. Like you're trying to feel full. You're not supposed to starve yourself. You're not trying to feel starving. Right. Because if you are starving in between meals or, after 2 hours, then maybe there's a problem, right? Look at the composition of your meal. Perhaps you didn't eat enough. Yes. And you need to increase a couple calories, and you probably need to eat more protein, right? Probably more protein. And the other thing I would say, now I have an app now that my clients use, and so I can see their diary easily. So I look at food and what they're eating. And what I see a lot of times is people aren't eating meals. Quit being lazy and make a meal. Like have a balanced meal. Don't just snack all day or I'm fine with being efficient. Like I'm not a gourmet cook by any means, but you can definitely make some balanced meals by just putting a little effort into it. If you want to be healthy and you want to feel good and you want to look good, put some effort into the food. Don't just snack all day or just create snacky, small meals. You're not going to be satiated. You're never going to be full. No. And then you're going to have the licks and bites. We talk about those. Licks and bites. Licks and bites will get you. Yeah. Tell them about that. Okay. I know what you mean, but they don't. So licks, I know people are like, what? What are you talking about? So licks and bites is, you're making dinner, you have a bite of this, maybe you have kids, you're cleaning up their plate, guess what? You do that day in and day out, that's going to add up to an easily, I don't know, 500,000 calories, depends on the person.
Yeah.
But every little lick and bite you have is going to add up.
It's not free.
It's not free. It's going to add up.
I hate that.
It's true. But when you're aware of it, everybody does it. I do it.
Of course.
But then you realize how much you're doing. You're like, oh, wow, it's going to add up. So even just start there. Pay attention to where you're getting your licks and bites. Or, you work in an office, you walk by a candy dish, you grab a piece of candy out of a candy dish. You do that a couple times a day, 5 days a week. That's going to add up. Yeah. I'm not saying you can't have candy.
No.
But just be aware. Be aware of your habits.
Yeah, just being aware of everything that you put in your body. I think that's the number one thing. That's with the tracking. I'm like, holy shit, that's a lot of calories. Or that's not I thought that was a good meal, and that's only 10 grams of protein. I was like, wow, it's just so much discovery and awareness. And then you can, that's where the magic starts.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
I love you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for doing this and helping us figure out what to eat.
You're so welcome.
Tell us where to find you.
Social media, Jenny Fit Wellness. You search that on Facebook or Instagram. Okay. I have a website, jennyfitwellness.com. You can reach me through there as well.
Awesome.
Just send me, I'll do a free consult with you and see if we're a good fit.
Awesome. And then we can get your course on jennyfitwellness.com.
It's going to, Jenny Fit Wellness. It's not on there yet.
Okay.
On Instagram, you can get a link to sign up to get it. And then I'll have a link on my website, but I'm redoing my website right now too. So it's not on there yet, but it will be in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yes.
Okay. 2 weeks, which, this won't even be out for 2 weeks. So actually by the time
Perfect.
we air this, it'll be live. It'll be on jennyfitwellness.com.
Yes.
So
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And everybody listening and watching, I really appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening or watching. God bless you. And just remember, you can create the life that you want and the body that you want and the mind that you want, just one day at a time. God bless.